Diagnosed with autism as a young boy, this guy makes a career out of helping criminals balance their accounts. However, one detective is determined to take him down, and he has nothing to lose. Chris is a young boy on the autism spectrum. His parents take him to a treatment center called Harbor Neuroscience. Chris' mother explains his situation, saying the boy is only close to his younger brother Braxton. Many things trigger him, and everyone is constantly on edge as they don't know when Chris' next meltdown will occur. Despite this, Chris shows brilliance in other things too. Chris is in the lobby completing a jigsaw puzzle with Braxton watching over him. Suddenly, Chris gets hysterical as he cannot find the last piece. A young girl in the treatment center gives Chris the missing piece and he calms down. Back at the office, it's revealed that Chris' father works in the military. His absence overwhelms Chris' mother as she has to deal with Chris alone. The director of the treatment facility suggests that Chris stay there for the summer free of charge, but Chris' father refuses. He wants Chris to live in a normal world so he can face his challenges one at a time. In the present, Chris has an accounting firm where he helps people plan their financials better. He helps an elderly couple and the man gives him permission to use his field as a shooting range whenever he likes. Chris tries so hard to live a normal life and has certain behaviors to help him stay in tune. At home, he sets his light to flicker a few times. He's arranged everything neatly, and before he sleeps, he presses his calf a few times while listening to heavy metal music. Chris also has a secret storage room where he spends most of his time. One morning, Chris gets a message from an English woman. The woman tells Chris that his illegal business is attracting more attention, so he should try to take a legal job this time. He's informed of auditing the firm Living Robotics, and Chris agrees to the work. It turns out Chris had made quite a reputation for himself as the accountant. He cooks books for criminals on the side, helping them avoid the law while also dealing in money laundering, and the clients contact him through the English woman. Chris remembers a time when he was in prison. His cellmate was a former bookkeeper for the mafia. He is the one who taught Chris how to launder money. Meanwhile, Ray King, director of the Treasury Department's FinCEN, calls in a new agent, Medina, who has applied for the position. Ray finds Medina's records impeccable and asks why she hasn't applied for a more luxurious position. Medina claims to love being a Treasury agent, but Ray pulls up her file. She'd gone into the system as a juvenile for attempting to kill someone. Ray scolds her since lying on the application is a federal crime. He threatens to send her to jail, so Medina turns to leave, but Ray has a proposal. He gives her a few photos to look at. Medina recognizes most of the people in the pictures as criminals already arrested. However, the accountant is spotted in each and every picture. Ray wants Medina to find out who the accountant is. He warns her that this takes first priority, and he wants the answer before he retires in a few months. Chris goes to Living Robotics and looks at a few people getting prosthetics. He has a meeting with the company's CFO, Ed, and Rita, sister to the CEO. Rita is the one who hired Chris and she hopes that he can help them. An inconsistency in the books was found and they need someone to review the company books. Chris says he'll start working the following day and gives the two a list of everything he'll need for the audit. Elsewhere, Hitman, Brax, enters a person's car. He hits him a few times before telling the person to stop shorting companies by spreading rumors that plummet their stocks. That night, Chris remembers how their mother walked out on them on Christmas Day because she couldn't deal with Chris's autism anymore. Consequently, Chris's father hired a martial arts expert to teach the boys how to fight. He even had them beat up a few kids who had bullied them in school earlier. Chris goes to the farm where he was invited to practice shooting. He lays his targets and shoots them with precision, much to the owner's disbelief. Later, he goes to Living Robotics to start his work. He finds Dana, the employee who discovered the inconsistency, asleep in the conference room. He awkwardly wakes her and asks her to leave. Dana was hoping they would work together, but Chris clearly wants to do his work alone. Over lunch, Dana tries to make conversation with Chris, but he is very socially awkward. Nonetheless, she doesn't give up. Chris starts doing his magic and writes on the whiteboard and windows, hoping to find what is missing and who stole it. Chris goes through over 10 years of books and finally realizes that $61 million is missing. He reports to Rita, saying that he's yet to find out who stole the money. That night, Brax and his men break into Ed's home and force him to overdose on insulin. The next day, Living Robotics CEO Lamar pays Chris his money and says his services are no longer required. He says that Ed had confessed to embezzling the money and committed suicide. Chris's autism causes him to feel overwhelmed that night as he didn't complete the work he was supposed to. He keeps having flashbacks of his mother and father and has a fit of rage. He cools down, takes his medicine, and then sleeps. The next day, he goes to the farm to shoot and a car follows him. Two of Brax's assassins hold Chris' clients at gunpoint and demands that the wife call Chris inside. Chris quickly sees what's happening and eliminates one of the assassins. He gets the other one, and the man reveals that a hit had been ordered on him and Dana. Chris executes the man and runs to Dana's apartment in time to save her from 3 assassins sent to take care of her. Chris then takes Dana to his storage unit, asking her to stay outside. However, Dana enters and finds an Airstream recreational vehicle filled with valuable art pieces and other items Chris had accepted as payment in his trade. Meanwhile, Medina sends a partial image of the accountant's face for face mapping. She learns that the accountant had been arrested for eliminating a dozen people a while back. She also gets a recording from the case. She listens to the recording and deduces that the accountant is chanting a nursery rhyme. She asks around, and someone tells her that the accountant must have either had a rough childhood or was on the autism spectrum. Medina's efforts help her locate Chris's accounting firm. She shares this information with Ray, who confirms that most of Chris's money is sent to neurological centers worldwide. Chris takes Dana to an expensive hotel, and she wonders what exactly he does. He opens up about his social awkwardness and how his father trained him and his brother. The moment gets intense and Dana leans in to kiss him, but he quickly gets up, having figured out what's happening at Living Robotics. The thief had been stealing money and then reinvesting it back into the company to raise Living Robotics' stock price. Chris leaves Dana so he can confront Rita about this. Sadly, he finds her dead, with the hitman leaving just before Chris enters the room. At the same time, Medina and Ray led a team of FBI agents into Chris's home. They note how advanced the security system is and find many unregistered weapons. Ray sends the agents away and stays behind with Medina. He shares his first experience with Chris. He had been at the hotel where Chris murdered dozens of people. Chris had found him and asked if he was a good father. Ray said he was, and Chris let him go. Ray wanted to quit, but he got a phone call from the English woman with a tip about criminal activities. He's been getting these calls and wants Medina to take on the job when he retires in a few months. Suddenly, the phone rings and the English woman gives Medina a clue regarding Living Robotics. Meanwhile, Chris goes to the hotel and leaves Dana as he doesn't want to endanger her life. He then sneaks into Lamars Compound. Lamar has hired Brax and his team to protect him, and they have installed cameras all over the house. Brax sends a team after Chris, but he quickly kills them, although he sustains a few injuries. Chris makes his way into the house as Brax watches. Suddenly, Brax orders his men to stand down as he recognizes Chris as his brother. Brax approaches Chris and hits him several times for going silent on him for 10 years. He's also angry that Chris attended their mother's funeral, during which their father was killed when Chris got hysterical. Chris calms his brother down and the two catch up. Lamar comes into the room wondering why Brax hasn't eliminated Chris. Chris kills Lamar and then continues talking to Brax. He promises to meet and catch up in a week and walks out. Some parents visit Harbor Neuroscience and meet Justine, the director's daughter and the one who gave Chris the missing piece in the first scene. She's non-verbal and communicates using a high-tech laptop. She demonstrates this to the new parents, and the English woman's voice is heard. Dana goes back to her apartment and receives a painting from Chris. She discovers that the top canvas is hiding a more expensive painting underneath. Medina agrees to be Chris's contact, and she speaks at a press conference about Living Robotics. Chris is seen driving on a country road with his Airstream.